Welcome everyone to this War Games instant reaction. My name is Peter Klein. This powered by Sea of Dead. Visit seaofdead403.ca for a hat like this, a Stampede Wrestling shirt, and a whole lot more. Thanks everyone for hanging out today, whether you're watching live here on twitch.tv/primetimepk, or if you're checking it out later, either in podcast form or over on YouTube or Daily Motion. What a night. This was a really, really strong outing from WWE going into, or coming out of, I guess, Survivor Series from Vancouver, British Columbia, home of not just the Vancouver Canucks, who I don't know if they even got a shout out tonight, although the fans chanting JT Miller wanted to get one in there. But BC Lions getting a shout out on this this night. The intro with the 6-time Grey Cup champion BC Lions. But all over the place. Let me know in the chat where you guys want to go. We just saw the main event, so I kind of want to get into that. And my main takeaway. The whole night was excellent. I think I've made that point clear already. But the whole night really, really enjoyable, and I had a blast watching this entire card. The main thing from me that I kind of took away just from in-ring, whatever, I forgot, or maybe didn't even realize how much I missed all those guys being together. You know, because the breakup was so fantastic. And then culminating in Cody finishing his story in the most just wrestling climax way ever, with all the different run-ins and everything like that at WrestleMania. Because the breakup and everything was so good and everyone did so well on their own, you forget how well it all worked together. And I admittedly wasn't necessarily anticipating that with this group. Like, I remember when the Shield kind of broke up and then they came back together for a quick thing and stuff like that. It was like, oh man, this is really cool. And even when before Seth did the whole chair thing to Roman Reigns, having Evolution back together was kind of neat for a little bit there. You know, like those things, it was like, yeah, this is really cool. And I didn't realize until they all kind of got together there how much I wanted to see that again. And to see those guys in kind of their absolute, almost peak form, teaming up together and working in tandem, going up against the new blood line. I really, really did enjoy that, and I thought it was a nice touch. And just it was something I wasn't necessarily expecting to feel, was just how much I wanted to see those guys all together again, and how much I missed having all those guys together. And so that was it was just. Yeah, like I said, it just wasn't an expected feeling that I had. Overall, I thought the match was excellent. You obviously had the story of Roman and CM Punk not necessarily getting along and doing all of those things, and the like cutting them off super serious, like, to allow Sami Zayn to get out, and then Punk doing Punk things and scooting around Roman Reigns to get into War Games, and then he doesn't pick him up and all those things, and then culminating again with CM Punk pulling Roman Reigns off of the table. I thought that whole part of it was excellent, and then as soon as that kind of happens, everything turns together, and the OGs really start to take it to the Bloodline. I had a buddy text me asking me, does this kill the momentum that the new Bloodline had? And I would say no, it doesn't. I mean, like, they lost, so there is that, but if you are a legitimate act, and if you are legitimate performers, then you should be able to handle losing once. That shouldn't be so debilitating for you. That should be a thing that you can handle. Is it like a loss shouldn't be the end of you? It shouldn't. It shouldn't. If you are, Jim Ross talks about this on his podcast all the time. If the only way you can get over is to constantly win, then you're not much a performer. And they aren't telling much of a story with you. Is there going to be a touch of rehab that is needed for these guys? Maybe. Can they do that in 2 segments on SmackDown? Yeah. They can come out there, kick the shit out of everyone, and they're back on top again. So, no, I don't think a loss here is a killer to these guys. I do think that there is, throughout this whole thing, this has felt like A team and B team. And that is something that they are going to need to get away from. And it's something I talked about a little bit as this whole thing was building up. We have talked about how insane some of these guys are and how dangerous some of these guys are. And you have some of the things like the car attacks and shit like that. But I feel like not enough has been done in ring with these guys to make them feel like they are these unbeatable, dominant destroyer guys, and you were seeing this collision course. It was just kind of like, well, this is the next step in the story, so this is how we are doing it. I feel like that is something that now needs to be the next part of this evolution. And yes, they've won the tag team titles before and then they lost them, but I think that this team needs to go on not just a rampage of kicking the shit out of people, but real legitimate win streaks. You know, like Jacob Fatu needs to rattle off like 18 wins in a row, assuming his leg isn't broken after the mix-up on the moonsault tonight. And apparently there's some videos from Rogers Arena showing that he is pretty legitimately banged up coming out of this show. But I just feel like you need to have him get on a roll and have Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa go out there and just buzz through a bunch of tag teams. And like that tag team kind of triple threat thing that is kind of setting up right now with Motor City Machine Guns and Street Profits and DIY. These guys need to go in there and just rampage the whole thing. Like just come in and like it is a WWE Cruiserweight match, and these guys are coming in and just wrecking everyone. Like Brock Lesnar, when he came in first and killed all of the Hardys and Spike Dudley and stuff like that. Like they need to do that kind of a thing to get these guys back to that level that they were at before this match. And Solo needs to start winning matches and doing all of that. And I get you want to make him feel like an attraction and all of these things, but his mic work and his persona aren't enough alone to get him to where he feels like he is on par with these guys. Like this really did feel like A Team and B Team tonight, and that's something they need to get away from. I will be interested to see what the next step in all of this is. They kept focusing on what was the deal that CM Punk worked out to get into this match, and what did they kind of have to do to get Punk there, and now where does the other side go? Where does Sami Zayn just kind of break off and all of that? But it was so cool to see him do the little handshakey thing with Jimmy and all of that. Like all of it was just awesome. And so if they want to stick together for a couple months here, fill your boots, man, because I really, really enjoyed having all those guys together. And then match quality-wise, it was a fun match. And I thought they did a lot of really, really cool things and put on a lot of really fun stuff in this particular bout. The match, or the night started also with War Games. It was the Women's War Games match. This one was fun as well. Like, you do have a few spots that maybe could have been a little bit more crisp, we should say, or we could say, but I think every match is going to have all of that. This one, again, it had fantastic athleticism. It had quite a few storytelling plots kind of throughout the thing, with Tiffany Stratton having the Money in the Bank in the trash can or whatever, and like obviously Bailey and Io kind of having their face-to-face and doing that sort of a thing. That there was a lot there for this match that I was really, really entertained by a lot of the stuff that they were able to do in this particular bout. I don't know if you come out of this one with the same kind of questions, but you didn't come into this one with a fucking 3-year story arc, so you can excuse them for not necessarily having the same kind of questions and everything like that you may want for a bout like that. But no, I thought it was cool. Io Sky continues to absolutely steal every show that she is a part of. And this time with the multicolored trash can and the moonsault, and then Tiffany Stratton doing the swanton off of the other side. Just phenomenal stuff. Tiffany Stratton, I don't think I am unique in this opinion, but feels like a superstar, right? Like she obviously has a look, but she has incredible athleticism. There is a charisma there that is obvious, and I think people are really starting to pull for her a little bit. And the more she gets kind of bullied out of these opportunities, the more I think the crowd is going to get behind her, and the more I think people are really going to get excited when she does cash it in. And I think there's honestly a bit of a babyface run in there, even though the personality will have to change relatively dramatically. I think that there is a babyface in there somewhere. So no, I thought, again, I feel like everyone kind of comes out of this one smelling like roses. Like Candice LeRae, even just like her, I'm not technically on a level to really break a lot of this stuff down, but just from a viewing standpoint, her selling was phenomenal. Like it just felt like everything that she got hit with was the most painful goddamn thing any human being has ever had to endure in their entire life. And that was, it was just kind of fun to see her in that kind of a spotlight. And they had that moment where Io goes around the backside of the thing, grabs the trash can out, and starts climbing back up to the top. And Candice LeRae meets her. I was just thinking, like, this is fucking cool, man. Like, I remember watching Candice LeRae at like every indie show that has ever had any DVD made from like 2000. I don't want to age her, I guess, too much, but I feel like 2005 to 2000 whatever. Like she's been doing this for a really long time. And she was one of the ones who was out there at every show that was worth a damn. She was there and sometimes had to wrestle the dudes and was putting on amazing matches and stuff like that. And for her to get that kind of a spotlight up there with Io Shirai, Io Sky, or whatever you want to call her, I thought that was all really fun stuff. And it was really neat to see that whole thing kind of come together in that particular match. Toxic in the chat, you're alive. Thought you forgot about us. Yeah, no. It's been very busy with the doing the stuff over at 960, and then that extended a little bit longer than I anticipated. And so, admittedly, the break from here has been longer than anticipated. So apologies for that. But yes, no, I'm back. Again, this week is another one where I'm at 960, so these will be fleeting, but I do want to get on here a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, as we kind of go along here. But yeah, the schedule has kind of dictated that after some pretty consistent everyday stuff, had to kind of back off of that a little bit, but couldn't resist coming on here tonight talking about WWE Survivor Series. United States Championship on the line as Shinsuke Nakamura is the new United States Champion, beating LA Knight. This match was all right. The crowd didn't really get into it right until the end. You were kind of telling a story that LA Knight wasn't super, like, mentally focused and was thrown off of his game a little bit by Shinsuke Nakamura. And I think there's an interesting story that you can tell now with LA Knight. And I know that the gambling odds were a little bit long on Shinsuke actually winning this one tonight, but I actually think that there is a relatively compelling story now that you can tell with LA Knight, where he has lost this belt, and it's kind of what, and we'll talk about the Gunther thing in a minute, but it's a little bit along the lines of what they might be doing with Gunther, where he has lost his belt now, and he needs to find that swagger that he had before. And he builds that up into whether it be winning the Royal Rumble or a good performance of the Royal Rumble. But I think this can now, the follow-up to this can now kind of catapult him into the world title picture now, which I think is what's next for him. And for Shinsuke, like the new intro is cool. The new look is fantastic. You will never ever hear me complain about too much Shinsuke Nakamura on my television. I want this guy on forever and always. He is so much fun. And so I am just very, very happy that he is back and that he is doing this thing in a real substantial way and getting this title opportunity now. I think it's going to be, again, you get the promos with the subtitles and all of that. This particular creative force behind Shinsuke Nakamura does really feel like it is something that you can get this guy to be taken really, really seriously, and they can actually maximize him. So I am quite excited about the potential for Shinsuke Nakamura and what he could be now as United States Champion. There was no such mid-card title change over on Raw, as Braun Breaker retains his Intercontinental title in a fun match with Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. I thought that this match, well, the main goal obviously is to have Braun Breaker to continue to look awesome. But I think another one was to kind of establish Ludwig Kaiser as a relatively legitimate player in the at least mid-card title picture over on the Raw brand. And I don't know if anyone bet on anything that he might actually win tonight or anything along those lines, but I do think that they were able to kind of show that he was good enough that he can hang at this level. And now they have another guy in the IC title picture. And I don't know what it is, because it's same people, but they have done such a better job over on Raw of building up that mid card than they have over on the SmackDown side. Like, you look at, they had to do this title change for LA Knight because he's beaten everyone. And you look at who could the next challengers be for Shinsuke Nakamura. I don't know. Does Jimmy Uso now go for a run? Jay just got the IC title. Do we get Jimmy going after the United States title? And then Jacob Fatu costs him and we do a whole big thing. But I don't know. I think that this is going to be a very very interesting over on that side. But on Raw, you have a lot of different options that they have built up, and now Kaiser is just the latest one who has worked his way into this mid-card title picture. So again, a lot of excitement around this, and Braun Breaker is just still awesome. World Heavyweight Championship on the line as Gunther defends against Damian Priest. I said over on Blue Sky, you can find me on Blue Sky, by the way. It is at Primetime Klein. Primetime Klein. Same that it is on every social media platform. Having fun over there, I'll admit. But no, one of the things I said over there was like, I know that this isn't necessarily everyone's kind of cup of tea when it comes to this form of a match, but I really enjoyed it. I thought that there was actually a lot to kind of sink your teeth into from a match standpoint and from a storytelling standpoint. Just threw my Blue Sky into the chat for those watching live, by the way. But I thought that they really gave you a lot that you could get into from a storytelling standpoint with Priest's arm, and it was heavy hitting. And like, it's not the fast-paced match that has become a bit more of a custom here in 2024, but because it's a little bit different and because everything feels a little bit more impactful, there's meaning to everything, right? It allows you to get kind of sucked into this story a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more and continue to get engaged in it a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And again, it's different and it is perfect and I loved it. I didn't necessarily love the finish all too much, where Finn comes out, he hits the double stomp on Damian Priest. That is a story that needs to be, I guess, kind of blown off a little bit, and was heated up a little bit more in the last couple of weeks over on Monday Night Raw. But then Gunther comes up and boots the bejesus out of Finn, and then gets him into the ring. It's the powerbomb, and it's the 1, 2, 3. It gets Gunther back on track, which was mission A, I guess, for this bout. But it also, everything has continued to kind of lead toward a babyface turn for Gunther. And I think that would be a mistake. I just feel like this is a guy who is perfect in the heel role, and was chatting with the Miller Effect, Dustin Miller, over on social media tonight, and we were saying, like, you already have, like, do good babyface guy on the SmackDown side being the world champion right now in Cody. And you don't always need the bad guy on one side, good guy on the other, and that you just have to switch all the time. Like, you can have two babyface champions. Batista and John Cena were basically the same fucking thing for a long time there. So, like, you can have both, or you can have it at the same time. But I feel like because Cody is such a big draw as the babyface champion right now, Gunther, there's no one like him when we haven't really seen a sustained babyface run for Gunther, so maybe we are underestimating him a little bit, but I do think that he is someone who is so unique as a heel and is such just a badass with the character that they have built up. I feel like it would be a mistake to try to get him back over on the babyface side. And from an in-ring standpoint, he can do all the stuff that would make you excited, right? Like, he is huge, he can move quick, he can kick guys, powerbomb stuff. Like, he is a whole lot of fun to watch. And so from a cheering standpoint, it wouldn't be difficult to get behind the guy. But from a, like, storytelling and all of that standpoint, from a character standpoint, I think you would be taking him away from what he is best at and taking him away from where he is the most valuable to this company right now. And I think that would be a pretty substantial mistake, actually, on the WWE's part. And he would just kind of become one of the same for everyone else over on the babyface side, if that makes sense. But for Priest, like, this was a good showing. Obviously, a couple of things went wrong with his matches with Gunther, with the slip and all of that. And so I thought character-wise in the build, he was excellent and kind of perfect for what they needed him to be in this match. And then from an in-ring standpoint, he brought it. He brought the style that you need him to bring when it comes to a match like this. So I really, really enjoyed this match. And like I said, I enjoyed the whole show. This is the one downside to the Saturday pay-per-views instead of the Sundays from back in the day. We didn't have to wait 48 hours. We could just, all right, Monday, let's go. We're ready to get this thing rolling. And now we're already excited for Royal Rumble to come up. Like, I'm already, like, let's go. Deadline, whatever they're going to call that thing. Saturday night's main event. They finally used the theme that I like when introing the matches. It's going to be Cody against Kevin Owens. Going to be fun. But let's keep this thing moving. Let's keep this ball rolling. The one thing that I am very intrigued by is how does this Bloodline storyline actually end? You know, because I think a lot of people, when we were all kind of like building this up in our mind, we had War Games being the blow-off. Now, I think a lot of us, had The Rock involved in some way, shape, or form, right? And that very clearly didn't happen. They really wanted us to think something was going to happen because that end dragged out at the end, and we got 100 different poses. But so they wanted us to think something was coming. But for a lot of people, War Games was going to be the blow-off. War Games was going to be the end where one side finally reigned supreme over the other, and that was going to be that. But now this still feels like probably just an act 2 of this whole thing. They were saying that Solo still has the Ulafala and still building up that sort of a thing. So what is the full blow-off for this? Is it a WrestleMania match? Is it before that? Is it the Rock coming back and a build toward WrestleMania with this program? I'm interested to see, because that did kind of blow off a big obviously it was the big fork in the road moment for the Bloodline story and all of that. But that was the Roman Reigns story of it. You kind of killed a few of the other things along the way. But in terms of like this whole big thing of old versus new, where does the final culmination happen? Because a lot of us thought it was going to be tonight, and it certainly doesn't feel like that. Anyway, all right, that is going to do it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me here on a Saturday as I just kind of randomness, stream of conscious, that's what we're looking for. Sent this one all the way out there. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. Toxic, thank you in the chat. Appreciate it as always. Later to you. Hopefully not too much later. Hopefully I'll be back on here very, very soon. That is the plan, at least some point this week. But things tend to get away from me, so who knows. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Follow me on social media. I am at Primetime Klein, and I'll talk to all y'all later. Have a great rest of your Saturday night, everybody.